Hey there guys, welcome to my channel. I'm here with another interesting problem where we have a system of equations with two equations and two variables. So we should be able to solve this, and we're going to do that. So we are given 64 to the power of 2x plus 64 to the power of 2y equals 12. And we have 64 to the power of x plus y equals 4 times the square root of 2. And obviously, we want to solve for x and y values. So first of all, notice that whenever we have something in the form of a squared plus b squared plus 2ab, we're going to have a plus b quantity squared. Cool. So let's go ahead and use this to solve our system of equations. First of all, let's take a look at the first given equation. That is 64 to the power of 2x plus 64 to the power of 2y equals 12. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to replace 64 to the power of 2x with 64 to the power of x and then squared, plus I'm going to replace 64 to the power of 2y with 64 to the power of y squared. So we're going to have this, and I'm going to go ahead and call this equation number 1. Next, let's go ahead and talk about the second given equation. We have 64 to the power of x plus y equals 4 times the square root of 2. Cool. Next, I'm going to go ahead and split the left-hand side into 64 to the power of x times 64 to the power of y. So we're going to have this, and then I'm going to go ahead and multiply both sides by 2 to get 2 times 64 to the power of x times 64 to the power of y equals 8 times the square root of 2. And I'm going to go ahead and call this equation number 2. So I'm going to go ahead and add equation number 1 with equation number 2. So I'm going to add 1 with 2. Cool. So we're going to have 64 to the power of x squared plus 64 to the power of y squared plus 2 times 64 to the power of x times 64 to the power of y equals 12 plus 8 times the square root of 2. Cool. Now, if you look at the left-hand side, we have an expression in the form of a squared plus b squared plus 2 times ab. That means that we can write the left-hand side in the form of 64 to the power of x plus 64 to the power of y, all squared. Now, notice that we have 12 plus 8 times the square root of 2 on the right-hand side. And notice that we can replace 12 with 8 plus 4. And then notice that we could replace 8 with 2 times the square root of 2 squared. We can replace 4 with 2 squared, and we can replace 8 times the square root of 2 with 2 times the square root of 2 times 2, right? And now, if you look at the right-hand side, you can see that again we have an expression in the form of a squared plus b squared plus 2ab. So we can reduce that into 2 times the square root of 2 plus 2 all squared. And notice that on the left-hand side, we have 64 to the power of x plus 64 to the power of y, all squared. Cool. Now, notice that 64 to the power of x plus 64 to the power of y is always something positive. Therefore, I can go ahead and say that 64 to the power of x plus 64 to the power of y should be 2 plus 2 times the square root of 2. Cool. So we have their sum, and before we found out 64 to the power of x times 64 to the power of y is 4 times the square root of 2. So we have the value of their product. So their product is 4 times the square root of 2. So by having their sum and their product, we should be able to solve for their value. So in order to do that, we can isolate one of them and then form a quadratic equation in terms of the other one and solve the other one, and then, solve x and y. But that's not what I'm going to do, because we can easily guess the value of 64 to the power of x and 64 to the power of y. Since their sum is 2 plus 2 times the square root of 2, and their product is 4 times the square root of 2, we can easily guess that we have two cases, either 64 to the power of x equals 2 and 64 to the power of y equals 2 times the square root of 2, or 64 to the power of x equals 2 times the square root of 2, and 64 to the power of y equals 2. So let's go ahead and, solve the first case, and the other case, it's going to be obvious. So if 64 to the power of x equals 2, we can go ahead and say that 2 to the power of 6 to the power of x equals 2, which means that 2 to the power of 6x equals 2 to the power of 1, which means that 6x equals 1, which means that x equals 1 over 6. Now, if 64 to the power of y equals 2 times the square root of 2, that means that 2 to the power of 6 to the power of y equals 2 to the power of 1 times 2 to the power of 1/2, which means that 2 to the power of 6y equals 2 to the power of 3 over 2, which means that 6y equals 3/2, which means that y is 1/4. Cool. So in the first case, x is 1 over 6 and y is 1 over 4. That means that in the other case, x is going to be 1 over 4 and y is going to be 1 over 6. Great. So we have two pairs of solutions, and this brings us to the end of this video. Thank you for watching this video. Please consider subscribing for more contents like this, and hit the like button if you enjoyed watching this. Hopefully I will see you later. Goodbye for now.